Quick service announcement time. Until the 29th of December, this channel is proudly sponsored by HelloFresh UK. You can get discounts on fresh recipes and meal kits delivered to your door. You can use the code down in the description at checkout or the link down there as well, and you'll get 50% off your first box and 35% off the 3 after. The busy festive fixture list continues in the Championship, and we are back today to predict matchday 25. All 24 teams in action, with 12 games played over the 29th and 30th of December, and that's ahead of a bumper New Year edition as well. It's a busy week over here. I hope you're looking forward to it, but before we go and look into the future, we've got to go back to the last match day. Match day 24 took place over Boxing Day and the 27th, and I did not do very well. 4 points for me, all correct outcomes, but no perfect scores. I was very happy to get Luton versus Norwich wrong though. For you guys, on the other hand, it was a very different story. Quite a lot of people struggled as well, picking up 3 points and actually less than me, but 3 of you have done better, so let's go in ascending order. We start with W&G fan, who got 6 points thanks to a perfect score in the final game of the match day. That was Burnley's 3-0 win against Birmingham. We got Dalraj Games. He got 7 points, no perfect scores, but correctly predicted the outcome of almost every match. And in star of the show, Tony Blakemore take a bow. 13 points, 4 perfect scores, including Luton versus Norwich. You made me a very happy man. Thank you for predicting that, and well done on winning match day 24. With that done though, let's go and move on to the next set of fixtures. And speaking of Luton Town, they are the first team involved. They go to Queen's Park Rangers on a 6 o'clock Thursday night TV game. Thank you to Sky for moving it earlier so I can't go around work. For QPR, a 0-0 draw against Cardiff for them. It wasn't a game for the purists, let's put it that way. I think anyone there might have been a little bit bored, trying not to go to sleep after too much Christmas turkey. For QPR, they were the side that were maybe a bit more intent on winning the game, but didn't have that moment like they did against Preston. You've got to give Neil Critchley some credit though. 2 clean sheets in a row after bucket loads of defeats. They'd let in 7 goals in the 3 games prior to him joining. So a real big difference there, but maybe just got to find that attacking edge as well. In contrast, Luton Town just running out of defenders again. Another red card for Gabe Osho. The first yellow incredibly harsh, second one absolutely fair. But what was most important about that game, Rob Edwards' first home one for Luton, is getting the win with 10 men. He made aggressive changes after losing a man, and he still managed to find a winner. Albeit Norwich probably should have scored in stoppage time, had about half of their chances of the match in stoppage time too. But some brilliant goal line defending, last ditch scrapping around to make sure the ball didn't end up in the back of the net. That is the first and most basic thing you can ask from a team. Some individual magic, all the goals in that game were very good. And Luton Town won with 10 men, which overall is a very good result. I don't know what to predict for this one though, because QPR generally have got a very good home record against Luton. Luton are going to be short on defenders. It's got to be a priority for January. But I'm going to sit on the fence to start with. I think it might be my heart rule in my head, but I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1. Well, if Neil Critchley was looking forward to his first home game in charge of QPR, another team that are looking forward to returning home are Blackburn Rovers. They host Middlesbrough, one of the form teams in the division. Blackburn were heartbroken in the last minute against Sunderland. They fell to a 2-1 defeat, albeit they weren't particularly inspiring again. I know they got the good away win at Norwich, who of course have now gone on to sack Dean Smith, but in recent weeks they've not always produced good away performances. 5 wins, 8 defeats on the road. However, they've won 8 of their 11 at home. The home comfort's definitely making a difference for them. But Middlesbrough, they don't seem to care where they are. I know they struggled at Burnley, who of course the standout side in the division at the moment. But other than that, they're rampant. Middlesbrough scoring goals galore, winning games, not conceding more than 1 in most of them. And they just look fabulous under Michael Carrick. Chuba Akpom, absolutely ruthless. They're playing to their striker's strengths and it's making a real difference to the scorelines. It wasn't a 4-1 game against Wigan by any stretch of the imagination. Wigan weren't that bad, but they were so ruthless when they created chances. And in the end, Middlesbrough got a really comfortable win. So it's very hard to predict what's going to happen here. Middlesbrough haven't actually got the best away record this year, and they did struggle at Burnley, a top side, last time out. But I'm suggesting that Blackburn are starting to fall away now. I know their defeats have come against Burnley and Sunderland away, Preston at home, all doing well in the league. But I just feel like the wheels are coming off, and it is generally this stage of the season. I hope I'm wrong, because John Dale Thomason started brilliantly there, and they are a club that I would eventually like to see back in the Premier League. But I'm going to go for Borough to nick it. 2-1. It won't be quite as flamboyant, but I'm banking on Carrick's boys to continue their good start. And next up, we have Coventry City versus Cardiff. Coventry, of course, a side who are traditionally very good at home. They've won 6 of their 11 games there so far, and 2 of their last 3 keeping clean sheets as well. But there is that little blotch on the record, 3 conceded against Swansea. The same again away at Sheffield United on Boxing Day. Is there a little bit of a concern defensively there? If there is, you probably couldn't ask for a better opponent than Cardiff. A 0-0 draw against QPR. No shots on target, the lowest scorers in the division over the season now. You couldn't ask for a better opponent in this situation. Coventry brilliant at home. Cardiff useless on the road, 11 points from 11 games, the 4th worst in the league. And although they're getting those points, it's 3 draws in a row since the World Cup. They are just floating outside the relegation zone, and they don't look convincing at all. I think this is a home banker. I'm going to use the B word that always works against me. I'm going to go for Coventry to win it. I'm going to go comfortable by 2-0. And the next one is a big Yorkshire derby, a big relegation 6-pointer. I think that's fair to say. It's Huddersfield Town versus Rotherham United. Huddersfield got a crucial 2-1 win away at Preston. They were bottom of the league, they were getting cut adrift, and they were 1-0 down with 20 minutes to go. Jordan Rhodes, as he so often has in his career, popped up with a crucial goal. And then late on they got a winner as well. It was a fairly even game and probably could have gone either way, but it was so important that Huddersfield won by any means necessary. And to get back within 5 points is crucial. They've got that game in hand to come, so you never know. And they're playing Luton on New Year's Day, so hopefully they get their results and then they're knackered for that one. But from the Huddersfield point of view, a really good result. But their opponents, Rotherham, are starting to slide. 3 without a win since the World Cup break, but they did get their first point at home to Stoke City. Defensively, again, a few too many errors. They gave up the lead twice in that game as well. But it is a point on the board. It keeps them 2 clear of the drop zone. But a 2-2 draw with 1 shot on target. They were probably the second best side in that. Stoke had a couple of great chances to win it as well, but Rotherham got the point. They've been plucky, and that's something they've done a lot this year to stay in touch. I really don't know how to predict this one. The only thing I'm sure of, cue the 0-0, is that there's going to be lots of goals. I think it's going to be defensive mistakes. I think both sides will be targeting this as one they can win. Huddersfield are going to be on the front foot, but evidence would suggest back-to-back wins are not likely to be forthcoming. I really don't know what to go for. Rotherham have only won 2 away games all year. They're the lowest scorers on the road. But Huddersfield, they're going to go for it. They're going to win it. Huddersfield Town 3, Rotherham United 1. I am not confident in that prediction at all. And next up, it is Millwall versus Bristol City. Bristol City, the visitors, are they under pressure? Is Nigel Pearson under pressure? Is 2 defeats in a row following that win against Rotherham. Against West Brom, they were largely uninspiring. They didn't create a huge amount. And West Brom comfortably and probably deservedly won the game in the end. Millwall, on the other hand, what a performance at Watford. I know the red card at 1-0 probably changed the shape of the second half, but they were absolutely brilliant, over 20 shots away from home, and Fleming again is at it. We mentioned him in the pre-season prediction show and said that if they get it right and get him settled in, they won't miss Jed Wallace at all. And I think we're starting to see the evidence of that. I still think he's going to be the signing of the season, and he's starting to look that way too. Now one of the top 5 scorers in the Championship. What a start it's been for him. Millwall at home are absolutely brilliant. 7 wins and just 2 defeats this year. Lowest goals conceded at home as well. And Bristol City, they're not the best away side. They score and concede goals galore though. So I am going to go for Millwall to let one in this time. They were frustrated by Wigan last time out, but I've got to go for them to win it. Millwall 2, Bristol City 1. And will it be the end for Nigel Pearson? Let's hope not. And in the next one, we've got 2 of the promoted sides facing off against each other. It's champions Wigan from last year in League One against promoted via the playoff Sunderland. And this is going to be a huge game because Sunderland fighting just 1 point outside the playoffs, albeit half the league is separated by 3 points. And Wigan, a bit like Huddersfield, maybe at risk of getting cut adrift. They're 3 points away from safety. The transfer window is going to be huge in terms of getting in goal scorers and probably a star centre-half as well. However, they've got to stay in touch in the meantime. They were beaten 4-1 at Borough in what was a very harsh result. Borough are absolutely ruthless. They've got what Wigan haven't up front, which is a goal scorer you can rely on. They played to his strengths. They made it work. But for Wigan, the defensive record's got to be a worry. We highlighted in the Colo Touré manager special, the first 3 games on paper were awful. Away to Millwall and Borough, at home to Sheffield United. It doesn't get much harder than that. This is the first game where you look and think they've got a chance at a result. And they've got to keep it a bit tighter because their home form's been awful this year. 9 points, only 2 wins from their 12 home games. And Sunderland on the road, one of the best sides in the division. And ironically, they're brilliant on the counter-attack as Wigan were earlier in the year. So it's a very tough one to predict. You've got both strikers back scoring for Sunderland. And they got that late winner against Blackburn. They'll be full of confidence. I really don't know what to go for. I feel Sunderland on the counter have too much. Wigan will keep the ball. They'll prod, they'll probe, but they won't get through. Sunderland will hit on the counter and they'll win by 2-0. On to Thursday's 8 o'clock kickoff, which isn't the last of the day, miraculously. It's West Bromwich Albion versus Preston North End. West Brom bounced back in style from that late defeat against Coventry with another win away at Bristol City. They are absolutely flying under Corberan. And Preston, well, that is disappointment, isn't it? 2 home defeats in a row. Huddersfield leading the bottom side in the league and throwing it away with 20 minutes left. That is not something you would expect from this Preston side. They were so solid defensively at the start of the season. Now it's 5 without a clean sheet, 9 conceded in that period as well. And West Brom, they look so solid. Haven't conceded more than 1 goal in the last 7 or 8 games. Won nearly every match under Carlos Corberan. And if anyone's going to make a charge for the playoffs, them and Borough are the 2 you look at. So for West Brom, I have to predict a home win. They've been so much better under him. Add to that the January window's coming. I don't think they need much, but if they can get a good defender in, maybe just add a little bit more at the back, I think they're going to be absolutely flying. There's still the debate over the goalkeeper, but Corberan working his magic, playing just like he did with Huddersfield. And against Preston, I know they're the second best away team in the league. I know they've won 6 of their 11 games, but they've all been by very narrow margins. And I just think West Brom will have the edge. I'm going to go for a boring game. I'm going 1-0 to West Brom. And I don't think their fans will complain at all at that. And then the last fixture on Thursday is the 8:15 kickoff between Blackpool and Sheffield United. Blackpool stay in the relegation zone, another side that have drawn all 3 games since the return. They drew 1-1 away at Hull City. Again, very good result considering they went down to 10 men with 40 to go. Disappointing to let in the equaliser because they looked good until that point. But again, discipline has cost them. They were the better side. They only conceded 1 shot on target, but Hull did have a couple of good chances to win it late on. So overall, given the circumstances, I think they'll take the point. But you're starting to look now and saying, how disappointing is that going to be when you're now playing a top side like Sheffield United? To have played in your last 4 league games, Wigan, Birmingham, Cardiff and Hull, and not got a win, that's going to be telling for Blackpool, I feel. We predicted them for relegation at the start of the year. They did start relatively well, but I'm now worried about them. They're not scoring goals, only 3 in their last 6 games, not more than 1 in any game. And they're playing a Sheffield United side that, for the second time this season, are starting to run away in the top 2. It was them and Norwich at the start of the year. It's them and Burnley now. And they were brilliant in a 3-1 win against Coventry. Perhaps a little bit disappointed because they got the late red card. Again, discipline, players out that don't need to be. But 3 shots on target, 3 goals. And it doesn't really tell the story of the game. You look at it and you say, oh, Coventry had more shots, more possession, more shots on target. But Sheffield United created the good chances and they took advantage of them. A comfortable 3-1 win for them. I can't see anything other than a Sheffield United win here either. I know it's a late trip on the telly, but 4 wins in a row, they're going to make it 5. I don't think this one will be as exciting. I'm going for another 1-0, this time to the visitors. Let's move on to Friday, where we start with Birmingham City versus Hull City. Birmingham just starting to slip a little bit, but they're still only 3 points off the playoffs in 15th place. And they face a Hull side that have drawn 3 in a row since the break as well. A lot of those sides in that relegation mix have. Again, disappointing performance until the Blackpool red card. Got the equaliser, fought back, and probably should have won it with some of the chances late on as well. But either way, disappointment for them. They are just 1 place and 2 points above the relegation zone. And they've got to be careful because of that goal difference. Still the worst defence in the league, but Liam Rossini has definitely improved it. He's just got to find that attacking edge now too. Birmingham, soundly beaten by Burnley. We would expect that. Everyone's getting battered by them at the minute. Didn't have a shot on target. They tried to set up the way they have in so many big away games this year, but Burnley were just too good, and there's no shame in that. At home, though, it's going to be a very different challenge. They've been a mixed bag this season. Generally been better on Friday nights, as they played most weeks, so this one might benefit them as well. Hull on the road, like a draw. I'm tempted to go for a draw, but I just think Birmingham are going to nick it. They did the same against Reading, but it's a busy festive period. They've got the younger squad. Hull, a bit more of a mixed match. I think Hull will play for a draw as well. It's just how much intent Birmingham show. I'm going to go for them to nick it. I wouldn't be shocked if it's the Championship's favourite scoreline, but I'm going to go Birmingham by 2-1. We'll see if they can get back in that playoff mix. And next up is managerless at the time of recording Norwich City. They lost 2-1 at Luton Town. They face a Reading side who beat Swansea by the same scoreline. A really impressive result for Reading. They continue their great home form this year. Second best in the division with 8 wins out of 12. But it wasn't plain sailing, was it? I know they missed a penalty. I know they scored 2 good goals. But Swansea had bucket loads of chances. I don't really know how they didn't get something out the game. I know that they were always going to have lots of possession, and Reading, to be fair, soaked it up, played on the counter. Paul Ince playing to their strengths and doing really well at home. 35 points. Everyone thought they would be in a relegation mix. They've got a 10-point cushion at the moment. Having said that, the performance wasn't one of their better ones at home. Certainly wasn't one of their more solid. But they're playing a Norwich side who, I would imagine, particularly from a fan point of view, will have a new lease of life on Friday because they've been wanting Dean Smith out. He obviously turned against them after the Blackburn game. I was really surprised watching them at Luton, and I've got to be honest here, I probably owe the Norwich fans a bit of an apology because I was one of those looking at the table and thinking, is it really that bad at the moment? Albeit the last few games that had changed slightly. But you saw the lack of ambition at 0-0 and at 1-1 to go and win the game. You could argue they were actually slowing the game down when the game was level. And particularly that spell where Luton went down to 10 men with 10 minutes to go, you thought, right, Norwich are going to put on the accelerator now. They've just equalised. They've got a man sent off. Are they going to push and take advantage of playing against 10? And they almost sat back, and Luton were able to come onto them and were probably the better side up until their goal then. Yes, you could argue Norwich should have equalised in stoppage time, some great last-ditch defending, and probably half their shots came in that 5 minutes. But to use a classic cliche, they were the architects of their own downfall. You can understand why the Norwich fans were frustrated, but they've got their way now. We'll see who comes in to replace him, but they'll be happy. I think the ground will be bouncing on Friday night. And Reading, away from home this year, by contrast, have been the second worst in the division. So I've got to go for a Norwich win. They've been solid enough for this year. The difference this time, though, is I think we're going to get a reaction. New manager or not, the fans will be up for it. The players will be on the front foot. I'm going to go for a big win. Norwich 3, Reading 0. 2 to go, and the first of them is Stoke City, who have the unenviable task of hosting Burnley. Burnley, of course, fly in both home and away, scoring goals galore. They're miles clear at the top, 11 points clear of third place Blackburn now. Them and Sheffield United almost playing in a league of their own. They were very comfortable, very comprehensive against Birmingham, and better defensively than they had been at times too. If you look at the last 4 league games, 1 goal conceded, and that was against a Borough side that were flying. Stoke will be disappointed, I think. A 2-2 draw for them, their second one since the break. They were the better side against Rotherham. They had most of the ball, they had most of the good chances, and although they showed spirit to come from behind twice, they're still not out of danger. They're going to be looking for January, and Alex Neil will probably want to do a bit of work, but you've got to be honest, they have to try and win games like that. This one is going to be much more difficult. The best they can probably hope for is a draw, and I think anyone's going to be predicting a Stoke City win, but can they nick the point? I'm going to say no, because on Boxing Day, I kept going for all these teams to nick points and it didn't work. So I'm going comfortable for Burnley. Stoke are scoring goals, so I'll back them to do that. I'm going to go Burnley to win on the counter. 3-1 because they've scored 3 in each of their last 4 league games. Why change the habit? 3-1 to Burnley. And the final game is Swansea City versus Watford. We'll start with the visitors, who had a really poor day at the office at home to Millwall. They were 1 down already and not playing great, but the red card compounded the misery late in the first half. Second half, it was the Millwall show. It was virtually a training session. Not a great deal of fight. Maybe not what you'd want to see from the character of the Watford team, but they're still up in 4th. They're still in that mix, and Slaven Bilic will get a response. We've seen that when he lost some of his early games in charge. Before that, you've got to bear in mind as well, they kept 4 clean sheets on the bounce. So there's definitely not too much wrong there, but it was a really disappointing day. Swansea, on the other hand, are one of the worst formed teams in the division. They're dropping down. They're now 16th after being up in that playoff mix. 2 of the last 3 have been defeats, 6 without a win, loads of draws in there as well. And they're starting to concede goals galore again. Against Reading, it was a pretty comfortable game for the most part. They kept the ball a lot of the time. They had 6 clear-cut chances officially, and they have bundles of opportunities to win it. They're not scoring goals with their chances consistently. They'll score 3 in a game and then only score 1 in the next 3. And it's becoming a very frustrating thing. Add to that Swansea's manager Russell Martin is now linked very heavily with his former club Norwich. Is there going to be a bit of disruption there? Are they going to want to talk to him? This could be a very difficult spell for Swansea, and they've got to be careful because the Championship is very tight. We know they're going to keep the ball, but Watford, it probably suits them better, having players that can counter at speed on the break. And I'm going to predict Watford to win it. I know they've only won 4 of the 12 away games. Swansea, though, not been the best at home. There's not many draws in there, so Watford to nick it, and they'll get a couple on the counter. Swansea 1, Watford 2. I'm finishing with an away win. Let's have a quick recap of what I've predicted for matchday 25. I've gone for Neil Critchley to draw his first home game in charge of QPR against my club Luton Town. My biggest win of the day has gone to another side that's just changed manager, Norwich City, to win 3-0 after the departure of Dean Smith. Lots of other close games, and bottom side Huddersfield to win. Could there be a shake-up in a relegation mix? But those are my predictions for matchday 25. Do you agree with me or disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section down there. And of course, give me your predictions for matchday 25 too. If you win, you'll get a mention and a shout out at the start of the New Year's episode. If you did enjoy this episode, please do chuck a thumbs up on it. Subscribe for regular content from the Honest Football Podcast. We'll be back on New Year's Eve with the predictions for the next set of fixtures. I hope you'll come and join me for that. It's also the final 2 days of our sponsor offer with HelloFresh. You can find that in the description below. You get loads of money off and it really helps support the channel. So thank you in advance for checking it out. But enjoy the football. I hope your team puts in a good performance. And I'll see you back here on New Year's Eve for the next edition of Championship Predictions.